If you're shooting for a 170 to crack the T14, this one's going to hurt. Back in 2011, there was a law school you could walk into with a 153 on the LSAT. Today, that same school's median is a 169. And I'll name the school in a minute, but here's what matters. This was not one weird school. This was not some unique exception. The entire curve shifted up underneath everybody, and nobody's warned you. I just pulled 15 years of ABA data on every single accredited law school in the country, and the read's pretty clear. Getting in is the hardest it's been in the past 15 years. Now, most people hear that and panic about the LSAT, but they're looking at the wrong number. The number quietly wrecking applications is not the LSAT, it's the GPA, and I'll show you why. And here's the part nobody else is going to tell you. The whole brutal squeeze, the thing that's scaring everybody off, is actually the best news you've gotten all year. Of course, not for everybody, but it could be for you if you're willing to do the one thing most applicants won't. And I'll prove it with the school's own numbers. Now, I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005. I raised my own score up from a 152 to a 175. So I want you to know this going in, that I'm not anti-law school. I make my living getting people into law school. And that's why I care whether the deal is still good. And I want you to walk in knowing the real numbers instead of what law schools advertise in their brochures. A 3.5 GPA used to make for a strong application, but today it gets you below the middle of the pack. Back in 2011, a 3.5 GPA put you at or above the median at 2 out of 3 law schools in the country. It was a safe number almost everywhere. Today, that same 3.5 is below the median at 3 out of 4 law schools. Now, you didn't change, of course. The numbers changed, the bar changed, and your GPA is mostly locked in the day that you graduate. So if it's sitting there low, you're going to need another number to make up the difference. Now, the typical median GPA climbed from a 3.39 to a 3.67, and it hasn't dropped once since 2015. So think about that. It's been up for 10 straight years, up almost every single year with no dip. It didn't pause for the pandemic. It didn't pause for anything. And so if you've got a 3.5 and you feel safe, your information's out of date. Now, out of the 168 law schools I could track across all 15 years, 166 of them out of 168 raised their GPA medians. The other 2 held flat. 0 of them, none of them, had their GPAs go down. So the entire field pulled in the same direction at the same time. This is not unique to top law schools. Now, the exact same 154 on the LSAT that made you dead average in 2016 now puts you below the median at 3 out of 4 law schools. So the same LSAT score, the same person. Imagine 2 applicants both holding a 154. One applies in 2016, one applies this year. Back in 2016, schools were starving for students, so a 154 was the median, and they would throw scholarship money at you just to get you to show up. Today, a 154 is below the median almost everywhere. The only thing that changes is the year. Now, the median LSAT went to a 157, then temporarily dipped down to 154, but now it's at a 159, higher than it was before the crash. And so we're now in the toughest LSAT environment in the entire 15-year record, all the data that I tracked, and a 159 just the middle of the field. At the schools you're actually aiming at, the medians sit 10, even 15 points above that, and they climbed right along with everything else. Now, all that climbing has a name when it happens to test scores. It's called inflation. A 150 on the LSAT used to land you in the 44th percentile. Today, it's the 38th percentile. The bar has raised, the crowd has gotten better, and so your percentile slips even if your score doesn't move. That means you've got to outscore the group that came before you just to be in the same spot. Now, when I lined up every school against its own 2011 self, 127 of those law schools got harder to get into, only 18 got easier. Of the schools that moved at all, roughly 7 out of 8 got harder to get into. It was not just a few elite programs, it was almost the entire country, almost all the law schools tightening at once. And the handful that did get easier to get into barely budged, maybe a single point. So Santa Clara, for example, went from a 160 to a 159 median LSAT. LSU went from 158 to 157. It's just 1 point. Now, the school I mentioned earlier, the one that used to take a 153 as their median, it's Texas A&M. Its median today is a 169, and its GPA median's a flat 4.0. So in 2011, that was a school you could walk into with a roughly average LSAT score. Today, they want a nearly perfect LSAT score. That school is representative of the majority of law schools in the country. And so you can't go by safe schools you saw a couple of years back. The game has changed. And this is not only about famous law schools. Florida jumped up 7 points, BYU jumped up 7 points, Wayne State did the same. So the state schools that people think of as their safety raise the bar alongside the brand names. There is no tier you can quietly drop down to where the squeeze is not already waiting. Now, there were more people applying back in 2011, 148,000 law students back then. Today, only 116,000. So the market lost more than a fifth of its seats and never built them back. So there are fewer chairs in the room. Law schools have shrunk, and there's a bigger, stronger crowd fighting over the remaining seats. That's tens of thousands of people who would have gotten in a decade ago, but just won't anymore because the chairs are gone. It's like a musical chairs game. So that's the whole mechanism, by the way. Fewer seats plus more applications is the entire reason the bar has climbed. So you're not necessarily less qualified than people who got in 10, 15 years ago, but you're competing in a smaller room against a deeper field. So don't beat yourself up over a rejection that your numbers would have cleared in 2014. Your job is to out-prepare the students you are competing against today, not the ones from 10, 15 years ago. And applicant numbers are up year over year for 2 consecutive years. Applications jumped 18% for the class that started last fall. Then they climbed again this cycle. According to the LSAC, the Law School Admission Council, that 18% was the largest applicant pool in over a decade. And this year piled more on top. 2 straight years of big increases. The crowd at the door is the biggest it's been in 10 years, and the door didn't get any wider. Every extra application in that pile is one more person sitting between you and the seat that you want, between you and the scholarship money. Now, the 1L class that just enrolled is the largest in years, and that's why this matters to you, because when a big class goes in, it floods the job market about 3 years later. So getting in, of course, is not the finish line. The school you land at, the price you pay to get there, decides almost everything that happens after, where you end up getting a job post-graduation, and whether you get a job post-graduation. You could have the same degree, but wildly different outcomes. One degree clears the loans in a couple of years. The other one follows you into your 40s. Now, the LSAT has changed, both in the format, the content, and there's this cheating scandal as well. For those who aren't aware, last year, overseas operations were found out to have been gaming the LSAT at home at scale, running stand-in test takers and selling stolen LSAT questions, and it got bad enough that LSAC pulled online testing in mainland China. Now they've pulled online testing for everybody, starting with the August LSAT. It's back to in-person for almost everybody, with rare exceptions. And so in-person at a testing center, the June LSAT was the last one you could take from home. Going forward, unless you have a medical exception or a distance exception for being remote, being rural, you're going to take it in person at a parametric testing center where you take it in person in a room full of people. On top of that, the testing platform is changing as well. It's a new user interface. Most of the changes are pretty minor, but there's one that matters. Eliminating a wrong answer now takes an extra click. The highlighting also works differently as well, and that adds up over the course of doing 100 questions in one sitting 2.5 hours. Then there's also the writing sample. Everyone blows it off for now because it's currently unscored, but in the next couple of years or so, LSAC has indicated they're going to start scoring it and hand schools a writing ability score in addition to your multiple choice LSAT score. Right now, the writing sample is unscored. It's an afterthought if you knock it out at home, but hopefully you can knock out the LSAT before they start scoring, because then that'll be another thing that you got to prep for. Now, if you want my help getting your LSAT score up, getting above the medians, getting into better law schools, getting more scholarship money, which is more important than ever before, given the elimination of the Grad Plus loans, starting in just a couple weeks, I'm offering a free LSAT tutoring lesson for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring lesson with me personally is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and